What is going on, everybody? John Impemba here with Howard Bender. Welcome into the NFL DFS Week 3 preview show. Howard, we've made it through the first couple of weeks of the NFL DFS season, and it is now Week 3, famously known as Millionaire Week here over at Fantasy Alarm. We had Millionaire Mike take down the FanDuel Millie in Week 3 not too long ago here. So it's a big week for us here.
And then, like a year or two before that, Bob Boris took down the FanDuel Sunday Million. $500,000 was the prize in that one. So he was absolutely loving life there. Yeah, listen, the great thing about Week 3 is that what we've got now is we've got more data to look at. We've got 2 games worth of data for each team. We see coaching tendencies, personnel packages that might have been different, coverage packages defensively that might have been different. And we start seeing certain things like target shares kind of spelling themselves out. So, it also gives us an opportunity to find out where some of the defensive lapses are, and using that in order to kind of prep ourselves here for the DFS week. So I'm super ready for this week. I'm super pumped up for it too.
Yeah, let's get into it. Quarterback position, top quarterbacks up over $7,000. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud. Spending up at quarterback last week wasn't necessarily where the fantasy points were. Thoughts here this week, given the matchups we have, especially some of the mobile quarterbacks we have. It seems like we got them all on the slate this week. Jackson, Hurts, Murray, Richardson, right up there among the top 5.
So I'm looking at the top 3 right now, and Jackson obviously going up against Dallas. Their run defense is a little shaky. We see where they're at, defensively. You got to keep an eye on Micah Parsons, but if you're talking about RPO work for the Ravens and you're talking about, trying to stifle Lamar Jackson, but then you got to prep for Derrick Henry coming plowing through, or just a quick dump off, whether it's Zay Flowers or Mark Andrews. It's a tough situation. And the Dallas Cowboys, listen, they've got a really nice corner in Trevon Diggs who gets burnt deep, and you've got a good set of guys on the defensive line a little bit, but really it's not that great of a defensive team, especially when they've lost some guys. Van Der Esch is gone, and you're talking about Deron Bland is on IR. So I think Jackson's probably, if I'm going to pay up for QB, I might as well just go all the way there and do it. I don't necessarily know if Hurts is the guy I want, simply because he doesn't have AJ Brown. And, I think the Saints are going to try and really slow it down and kind of grind this victory out for themselves at home, with their running game.
Yeah, the Saints-Philly game does have 49.5 game total, but I think I'm a little bit more interested on the other side of that matchup, as we work our way down to the quarterback and then some of the other positions. But obviously, he got the tush-push touchdown. He had the 85 yards, and that's going to always carry sort of his fantasy value there. Highest game total on the board is Arizona-Detroit. Detroit's been involved in 2 of the higher game totals so far this season, but those games have gone under in both instances here. Are you feeling maybe like another under game? Are you in on Kyler Murray after a really great Week 2 performance against the Rams?
I'm definitely in on Kyler Murray here. Obviously, the rushing yardage. We've got some good defensive matchups to exploit here, which we'll get to when we start talking some wide receivers. But Kyler Murray, to me, is always in play. Big on him coming into the season. And this one here against Detroit, I'm totally fine using that. On the other side of that, though, Jared Goff, why wouldn't you take a look at Goff? You've got Amon-Ra, you've got Jameson Williams, you've got Sam Laporta. Not saying Arizona's got the greatest coverage team around. And if you look at Jared Goff and his projected ownership right now, it's low. It's like under 6%. Like, everybody sits there and goes, Jared Goff on the road. But this is in Arizona in a controlled environment. I'm not really that worried about wins suddenly, taking some floaters away.
Yeah, for sure. This game ends up being sort of a track meet. You got to assume he'll at least get some of the touchdowns. I think the Lions' affinity to run in the red zone is what hurts him at times. That they don't really too often do these like play action plays. They hand the ball off to David Montgomery 3 times in a row and see if he scores. And then if he doesn't, Campbell will go for it on 4th down, So I think sometimes that hurts them. He's got to kind of make those connections outside of, you know, the 15-yard line for the score. But if this game does go back and forth, they're going to need him to throw there. I agree with you. Baker Mayfield at home, coming off of another pretty strong performance here. You know, I was a little concerned about that game against Detroit because of the defensive line. He was sacked like 6 times. So, yeah, I wasn't incorrect there, but he had a rushing touchdown, which kind of saved his day. Now has Denver going into Tampa Bay. They have a good cornerback, obviously, with Surtain, but you know, where are you with Baker Mayfield this week?
I'm okay with Baker Mayfield. I mean, I think that, I mean, he's not one of my favorite choices, obviously, because I think that when you look at Denver's secondary and you look at it's more than just Patrick Surtain. So I think the corners kind of focus in a little bit more on Mike Evans, on Chris Godwin. If you've got Jalen McMillan lining up on the outside when Godwin's in the slot, then maybe that's kind of what it is. I feel like, you know, this is one of those games where Tampa Bay is going to need to kind of shorten up that passing game a little bit, do a lot of work over the middle while the corners are taking out the wide receivers. So I like them. I'm fine with it. I'm not like rushing to, I think Tampa wins this game, but I'm not like running out there thinking, oh my God, this is going to be like a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game for Baker Mayfield, because Denver just doesn't give up that kind of passing yardage or passing touchdowns.
Sure. Jordan Love been practicing this week. Seems like he may be giving it a go. On the road against Tennessee, though. Brock Purdy against a Rams defense that is just getting lit up right now. And then Derek Carr at $5,800. Coop did a short today over at Fantasy Lineup. You can check that on the YouTube, saying that Derek Carr is the QB to play this week. Philadelphia's secondary certainly has had their problems. Olave, Shaheed, Kamara, all making plays here. How are you kind of breaking down this next tier of guys?
I mean, I'm no interest in Jordan Love. I love Jordan Love. I think he's a great quarterback, but not in this game coming back. I'm not going to take that chance, because I do genuinely believe that the Packers are pushing him a little too fast. Matt LaFleur has been saying it now, right? Matt LaFleur was talking about him coming back for week 2. Yeah. You're putting that kind of, you know, when you're putting that kind of pressure onto a young quarterback, what's he going to do? No, I don't want to. I'm not ready. Or is he going to push himself a little bit more to be like, okay, coach, I can do it.
Right.
So I'm not going to test that for DFS. I think Purdy is in a great spot against the Rams, although I think they'll probably run heavily with Jordan Mason. Yeah. By the way, people, if you're going to ask a start-sit question, stop calling him Trey Mason. His name is not Trey Mason. If you keep putting Trey Mason in, I'm not going to stop recommending him, but his name's not Trey Mason.
Are people saying that? Are you getting Trey Mason on the Discord?
I've gotten it like at least a dozen times already over the last 2 weeks. Stop it. Crazy. Trey Mason. Crazy. So I do think it's going to be a little bit heavier for him. I think Carr is a great play here against Philadelphia. He's got the weaponry, right? We haven't even seen him tap into Chris Olave enough yet, because it's all these bombs to Shaheed that everybody's paying attention to. But I definitely think that, with this West Coast style passing, and the dink and dunk up and down the field to open up the big plays, I think it's a great spot to be in on for Derek Carr.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, the Shaheed thing has been phenomenal, right? Like he was a guy we were high on kind of going into this year. We liked the set. We know he was making big plays last year. And this is a defense that is just giving up. Darnell Mooney last week, 2 big plays at the end of that game, setting up Atlanta to end up going in and winning there. Down a little bit further, we're not sure if Justin Herbert's going to suit up or not. Caleb Williams hasn't looked great. Geno Smith did tear apart the Patriots with JSN and DK Metcalf. They have Miami coming in. Watson.
I don't know, why does DK have Miami listed as the third ranked pass defense? Like that's
fantasy points allowed, I guess. Like
I don't know, but that's wrong. It's definitely wrong. I've been looking at Miami's defense, and it is not the third ranked pass defense. In fact, I kind of think it's like 28th, 29th, or 30th even.
In like DVOA?
Well, early DVOA, yeah, which is kind of tough to look at. But, I mean, if you're just basing it on yards allowed, I'm sorry.
Like, what happens did not have a great week 1.
What's that?
I said Trevor Lawrence didn't have a great week 1. Did Josh Allen have a big week 2, or was that mostly just James Cook?
He did not. It was James Cook. Everybody's running on Miami. And I do think that, we'll see Seattle run on Miami, but with Kenneth Walker possibly missing this one here again, are they going to give it all to Zach Charbonnet, or are they going to let Geno Smith throw it a little bit? Ryan Grubb's offense, yes, he'll run the football, but Ryan Grubb's offense is all about passing. And you saw, like you said, Geno, 327 yards and a touchdown last week, 7.4 yards per attempt for him. This is what they want to do. This is how they want to throw the football. We're going to see a lot of DK Metcalf, JSN, and Tyler Lockett are going to be involved. You'll see, Charbonnet move into some passing. He'll start off in the backfield and he'll run a route. You'll get Noah Fant involved there. It's all about, confusion, misdirection, and a lot of pass catching options, while they tend to focus on, really just one or two targets.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a good spot here. Even Miami, they're going Skylar Thompson. If he turns the football over or can't get anything going, more offensive opportunities for Seattle, maybe some short fields for Seattle. And I think it's kind of evidenced without Kenneth Walker. You got 44 pass attempts from Geno Smith, right? They like Zach Charbonnet, but they don't seemingly like him to be the workhorse that Kenneth Walker can be when they're in those positions. So I'm with you. I think Geno Smith could be in for a pretty strong day there. Andy Dalton is $4,800. He's got Las Vegas. They're on the road. He threw 58 times in the one start he made last year. Price cost just there. Do you have to make a GPP lineup with him?
I mean, I don't think you have to, but I think it makes sense to do it. I mean, for $4,800, right? Like that's the price of a bargain wide receiver.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, if you're going to do it, go ahead and do it. I mean, I don't necessarily know. I mean, do you want to go naked Dalton, or do you pair him up with Deontay Johnson and hope that these two connect? So
I think so. I think that would be the route you'd go. Thielen's out $100 more expensive than Deontay this week as well. So, I mean, if you're trying to figure out which wide receiver to stack them with, but yeah, that's kind of my thinking there. So,
all right. I mean,
Andy Dalton though. Any other quarterbacks for you?
No, not really. I mean, Darnold will probably have to throw. Maybe he's, an intriguing dart throw. If Justin Jefferson plays, sure. Maybe you throw that down as a contrarian move. Because I think, once you put a questionable tag on any player, the DFS masses immediately jump off of him.
Yeah.
So
yep, agreed.
I think that's a possibility. Gardner Minshew, maybe you could, throw him out there as well. It is Carolina. They do have, decent corners in J.C. Horn.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, I wouldn't mind throwing him down with Brock Bowers then.
No, I was gonna say he's, again, you can say this about anybody, but he's a touchdown away. If he throws 2 touchdowns in either of the 2 weeks there, he's looking at decent fantasy production for the price tag, completing 78 and 75% of his passes, 38 and 33 pass attempts. All the volume is there. We just need to see the touchdowns, and maybe those come against Carolina. So I don't hate that. All right, running back. Barkley, Kamara, Taylor, Kyron, and Achane are your top 5 in the 7K tier. How many people are going to be chasing the 4 touchdowns from Alvin Kamara this week?
Oh, a ton of people are. Absolutely. And whatever. And rightfully so. I mean, again, the ground game is absolutely spectacular. I think if you're going to use Kamara, then you have to, adjust where you're going to go for your passing work. I know we're talking about using Derek Carr possibly here. Yeah. And I'm not going to, you're not getting the checkdowns to Kamara like you did in Pete Carmichael's system. So, Yeah,
these game flows obviously haven't been as conducive to checkdowns either. I mean, he did have 5 catches in week 1, but they were blowing out Dallas most of that game. He had the 57-yarder there and screen touchdown in that one. And maybe if this game is a bit more competitive, you could see them throwing to Kamara a little bit more. But, Philly's going to try to run the football. There, Saquon Barkley's there at 77. Devin Achane is your second highest rostered running back at the moment. Assuming Skylar Thompson, they're just going to run the football and not really throw it as much. Any interest in the rest of this 7K range?
No, not really. I mean, Chicago's got a good defense. I don't necessarily know. I want to see the Colts kind of put themselves together beforehand. You could go if you're gonna stack, like let's say you're thinking about stacking Carr with Olave and Shaheed, a little something coming back. Maybe you want to try Barkley. I think that a lot of people are gonna leave Barkley out this week. I think he'll probably be a lower ownership than anything else. I mean, Saints do have a good, not a great run defense, but again, I think a lot of people are expecting the Saints to jump out early and force the Eagles into more of a passing situation. So I think, so maybe Barkley's a contrarian. I haven't looked at his ownership recently, but no, this top of the heap right now, not really my favorite for this week.
Yeah, Barkley under 10% at the moment. Obviously, these get adjusted again as we get close to the roster lock, but it's kind of where it's sitting at for the moment here. The next tier down, I mean, Jordan Mason is again your top rostered running back, just like he was last week, and he came through for fantasy managers again, 100 yards and score. No passing game, does not catch football, but they're going to feed him 20 targets. This offense is going to score touchdowns. The fantasy points are going to be there, and $6,200 is certainly too cheap. I guess my question to you is, how much are you buying into what J.K. Dobbins is doing? Because if there's no Herbert, they're probably going to lean a lot more on the run. 17 for 131 against Carolina, 10 for 135 against Las Vegas. Seemingly, showing some of that explosiveness he's had in years past.
Much better defense in Pittsburgh to face this time, especially on the road. So, and also you got to take into consideration, you look at the carries for Dobbins and Gus Edwards, they've been split almost 50-50 for the first 2 weeks of the season, which tells me that they're going to lean on both of these guys a fair amount. Dobbins has just been the more explosive guy in these last 2 weeks. So he's obviously popping more, but look at the touches for Gus Edwards. They're still right up there. So I think if you're looking at this matchup here against Pittsburgh, I don't know if I go Dobbins here as they bump him up to 6,400. I think I can get like a little bit more of a bargain price further down.
Okay. Where else are we looking to go then at running back today?
Pollard is definitely somebody that you're going to want to take a look at here, especially with the struggles of Will Levis. You can run on Green Bay. It's not a great run defense. I really like Jerome Ford going up against the Giants. I know that some people are worried that Deonta Foreman out-touched him last week, but Cleveland was up 2 scores to the Jags for most of the second half. They were like, let's just run out the clock here with Foreman and just grind it. I think you're going to see a lot of good early opportunities for Jerome Ford to kind of take off on that front. I think that's a good
spot. Does that not worry you though? Like it's their favorites here home against the Giants. Like if Jerome Ford's not the guy getting the kill the clock work, doesn't that take away from some of the?
It was one game. Like Jerome Ford was on the field the majority of the time. He plays more snaps. They're not going to just shut it down here against the Giants, and not to mention the fact that I think he can get some really decent work early on in this game. If he's getting, if he gets 12 carries in the first half.
Yeah.
I mean, if he comes out away with 12 carries, 65 yards and a touchdown, are you unhappy with that for the price tag?
No, I don't think so. I just think we always talk about, guys like Derrick Henry, right? Where, the final 2 minutes, they're just handing him the football and he can get you another couple of points, like kind of like he did last week, which they ended up losing that game. But the whole point of that drive was Derrick Henry, to kind of kill the clock. So just want to get your thoughts there because I heard you mentioned in one of your videos liking Ford this week and not worrying about Foreman. But in on the Pollard, love even the passing game work that he's getting because we thought maybe Tajay Spears was going to be someone that got a lot more passing work than Pollard, but it's been him. So definitely in on that play for sure. Any other values down here? I mean, if you listen to Pierce in Las Vegas, he says, we want to get Zamir White 20 carries a game. We're working our way towards it. Well, Carolina would be a matchup for him to get that volume. Madison had the touchdown, but did nothing else last week. Think Zamir White at 55 against Carolina is a play?
I do think Zamir White is definitely a play this week. I put him in. He's in one of my videos. Also, I think he's in my DFS bargains video because he's $5,500 against against it. I mean, week 1, who did Carolina face in week 1? Was it Kamara?
No, yeah, New Orleans. Yeah,
yeah. So Kamara tears him up in week 1. Dobbins goes for over 100 in week 2. if you're going to tell me that Zamir White's getting 20 carries, thank you. I'll take it. 5,500. It's ridiculous.
Getting a quick update here. George Kittle did not practice today due to hamstring issues. So 49ers offense may be down yet another player. Already out Debo, out CMC, maybe out Kittle this week. So we'll have to make sure we check up on the status of that before Sunday's roster lock there. All right, other running backs here. Javonte Williams is 54. Jalen Warren came back. You got Chuba Hubbard against Las Vegas on the other side of that matchup. Bucky Irving.
Chuba's definitely interesting just in the fact that you've got a legitimate passer now.
Sure.
It might be Dalton, but, but I worry about that Carolina offensive line. So I'd probably bypass that. You just said Bucky Irving. My ears just went boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I think that, again, if you can run on Denver, Rashad White, who tweaked his groin. Yeah, he came back to practice on Wednesday, which was encouraging for him. But, if Tampa Bay jumps out to a lead, why wouldn't you just give it to Bucky Irving? He's the more efficient runner, better yards per carry average. He's a good bruiser that you can kill the clock with.
Yep, that's fine for me as well. I like that play. Value guys here at running back.
You could look to see what happens with Joe Mixon. If Joe Mixon doesn't play, maybe you got Cam Akers or Dameon Pierce.
I was going to say, Dameon Pierce also not practicing with a hamstring. So this could be a full-blown Cam Akers week against the Vikings.
Or if you think that it turns into a little bit more of a passing, Dare Ogunbowale, he's on the field for the passing downs for Houston.
Okay. I don't mind that. Super contrarian play, but just game theory thinking. They are using Justice Hill a little bit. I know you'll never really play Justice Hill over Derrick Henry, but in that game where they had to come back against Kansas City, he had 6 catches on 8 targets. Had a couple of pass catches in that game against Las Vegas at the end there. So for a full PPR fan to only, just if you're trying to be different with your builds or game stacking, I think you might be able to take a look there. You mentioned Akers already. Anybody else down here that you look at? I mean, you talked on to Foreman. He did have 14 for 42 in that game.
I mean, if you're putting 20 lineups in, maybe you get a little exposure there. But if you're just playing a couple of lineups, like I'm not a max lineup guy. I've never been a max lineup guy. If I'm throwing out like 4 or 5 lineups in a week, Deonta Foreman probably not going to make my make my list.
I agree. All right, I got nothing else. Anything else for you?
Nope, not down here.
All right, wide receivers. We go. CeeDee Lamb, $8,800. I know there was some concern that he didn't practice yesterday, but Veteran Wednesday day off, I think, is the fantasy analyst Twitter dream, right? Like all the veterans get Wednesdays off and like, ooh, this guy's not practicing. Beware. And then reports like, nah, he's fine. It's Veteran Wednesdays. Like they're not gonna practice. He got him, Jefferson. Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the top 4. How concerned are you with Skylar Thompson at quarterback for these Miami receivers?
Very. I mean, you're going to shorten up the passing game, right? You're going to try and get the ball to Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle and get them like on a shorter route, get them running in space. That's what your goal is here. Whether or not that actually gets pulled off, I don't know. I will probably, and some people might, game theory people say, well, you got to play him in a contrarian way. I'll pass on the passing game here for Miami. I'll skip Hill and I'll skip Waddle.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you here. We've never really seen anything productive from Skylar Thompson really throwing the football, so pretty difficult to trust there. You mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown earlier. 8,200. Everybody was worried, right, after week 1. Oh, Jameson Williams. Oh, Amon-Ra St. Brown, just 6 targets. What happened? Well, man went 11 for 19 for 1. Okay, we can calm down the nerves here on Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're good to go, right, against Arizona here.
Dude, people are nuts. I mean, listen, I love y'all, but you guys get crazy about stuff like that. And again, I think it's wheels up for this for this Detroit offense.
Yeah.
Right. Amon-Ra is fine. I mean, Jameson Williams, 20 targets through the first 2 games, right? 200 yards and a touchdown. That's what he's totaled so far through the first 2 weeks. I think this is a fantastic passing attack. Happy to go with it.
Yep. I agree with you. I'm also not shying away from Devontae Adams. I know this can be a tough, defensive matchup, but he is their receivers, right? It's him and Bowers. He had 9 for 12 and 110 and a score. Like, he's an elite receiver. Minshew, for all the jokes that people are throwing on Gardner Minshew, again, he's completing like 77% of his passes. He's averaging almost 8 yards per attempt. Like, I am fine with Devontae Adams here if Gardner Minshew is going to continue to look his way, at this price point at 76. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. did all of his work early in that game, but showed the big play upside that he has, quelled all the concerns that everybody had after week 1. And Detroit secondary is the way to beat them. Now, the slot receivers have been the one to do the damage in each of the first 2 weeks. But still, MGH is going to be the top guy here.
He is going to be the top guy. And, listen, I think that he's a fantastic player. You always worry about a guy getting, people just chasing last week's points. Like,
Sure.
He'll be highly owned. But, listen, I think that what's the 52.5? Is that the game total there? So, you have to like it. If you want to get invested in some way or another, Marvin Harrison Jr., that's the way to go. I love the targets for Adams. Marvin Harrison Jr. is rock solid as well. I think Nico Collins is an interesting play. Although I'll tell you what, knowing now Minnesota, where their secondary has been like super weak, they've got Stephon Gilmore on one side, Shaq Griffin on the other. Are you shying away from the Houston receivers?
I don't think so, because if they don't have Joe Mixon, they're going to probably throw the football, right? So you're going to have to deal with. I don't know how much they're going to lean on Cam Akers as the guy to carry the workload here. So I still think they're going to go, whether it be Collins, Diggs, and Dell. We kept on sort of passing by Nico Collins because Diggs and Dell were cheaper, and we thought there was similar production. And then Nico's gone out there and has established himself as the number 1 wide receiver so far through 2 weeks on this offense. So, if you want to play sort of that revenge game narrative still, going up against Minnesota for Stephon Diggs, and he had the 2 week 1 touchdowns, maybe there's something there, but 4 for 37 and 6 for 33 in 2 weeks, like that's not great, right? Like, if you're paying premium dollars for a guy that's going 4 for 30, he needs the 2 touchdowns. So I think Collins is still fine for me, because if that's what you think about this defense in Minnesota, like you're shying away from the corners here, then bet Minnesota, right? Because, I don't know if Houston's going to be able to do much else if they can't throw the football, if Mixon doesn't play.
Talking about, man, it's all Dalton Schultz this week.
Yeah, tight end play. Yeah, exactly. Devonta Smith is 69, no H.A. Brown. Zay Flowers had a big week, $6,800 for him.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Godwin has been just unstoppable, but has that Denver matchup. Where are we looking?
DJ Moore, you jumped over DJ Moore. I actually kind of like DJ Moore this week going up against a shaky secondary for the Colts. Colts have been definitely struggling. At some point, things are going to click for this Chicago offense. Caleb Williams, I know, is a little bit on the struggle bus here, but this might be an interesting, an interesting contrarian move for some.
Yeah, I like the volume for sure, but yes, Caleb Williams is having the rookie blues here. So, we'll see if he can turn it around in a spot like this. You're not wrong, but 6,700. The guys that are around more, like I feel like I want to take some, like Olave at 63 feels pretty good.
Olave, Metcalf at 63, absolutely.
If everybody's out for San Francisco, does Ayuk get 15 targets? No Debo, no Kittle, right? Like,
it's very possible.
So in the Rams secondary has been atrocious. So I like Ayuk at 62 now. It's sort of some of the developments that are going on.
Yeah, the 6K range is nice. I'm not ready. We're struggling with Pittman right now.
Yeah,
so he'll probably see a lot of Jalen Johnson anyway.
Correct.
Cooper, I just can't trust Deshaun Watson yet, and I think that Cleveland will run the ball a ton. Waddle, I'm not ready to trust. Ridley's in a nice spot here also, but he's probably going to see a lot of Jair Alexander in this matchup here against Green Bay. So I might kind of bypass that. But yeah, I think like the 63 to 6,900 is probably like a nice little sweet spot for us this week.
I agree. No, I actually wouldn't even really I mean, I won't play him, so I guess I don't even know if it's worth recommending him. I don't mind Waddle because I feel like Skylar Thompson's gonna throw the short passing game. That's kind of Waddle's jam, right? He's the over the middle, underneath stuff. He's not the downfield guy that Tyreek Hill is. And if they do just set up a bunch of wide receiver screens or whatever, Waddle or Hill could easily just break one there. So
right. My only concern there is that Seattle thinks that too.
True. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Jameson Williams, as we talked about, 5,800, 11 targets in week 2. So if you were worried at all about him being a flash in the pan, no sir. A 50-yard catch in that game as well is showing that he has the big play that we're looking for the home run. So absolutely love him in tournaments, especially in this game. I would imagine he'd be pretty highly rostered in tournaments, given the 52.5 total there.
Oh, easily.
Brandon Cooks, again, I had the touchdown in week 1. Everybody's going to be on Jalen Tolbert. It feels like it's a good week to maybe go back to Brandon Cooks and be contrarian. With Lamb there on the other side of that matchup. And then Shaheed is here. Price tag slowly on the rise, but 70-yard touchdown, 59-yard touchdown. It's
5,300. 5,300 for what he's done for the first 2 weeks is a little bit ridiculous.
It takes a while for the algorithms to correct, right? Like next week, if he does it again, he'll be like 57
on DraftKings though. Like I don't know what his price tag is over on FanDuel. We can definitely look that one up, but the interesting thing that you take like Jordan Mason, for example, he's 6,200 here on DraftKings, but he's already like 8,300 on FanDuel. Like FanDuel has massively corrected things.
Shaheed is, I guess I have to not click on the showdown slate. For that to work here. Shaheed is 63 over on
okay, so mid-tier.
Yeah, mid-tier guy.
Mid-tier for FanDuel. Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, they added the bonuses this year over on FanDuel, Howard, as well. You have the 300-yard bonus and the 100-yard bonuses for running backs and wide receivers. So Shaheed hasn't hit those numbers yet. Frustrating for fantasy managers on both sides. He's become close, but certainly could be the secondary to give it up here this week. JSN, like DK Metcalf, 12 of 16. I mean, again, Tyler Lockett scared everybody in week 1. Oh my God, Tyler Lockett, he doesn't go away. And then JSN comes out and is like, no, I'm the guy. This is my spot. So happy to ride either of those guys plays there. Tank Dell 52. Judy had a good week. I know you mentioned not trusting Deshaun Watson, but you can throw on you can probably do anything on the Giants at this point, but you
and I could score on the Giants at this point.
I like the targets 8 and 6 for the guy. So
yeah.
It's a good price for Judy if you want to get that spot in there. Anything else for you down here?
Demarcus Robinson, I think you have to take a look at him. I know that the Giants, San Francisco, the 49ers definitely, they're still dealing with some injuries in the secondary. So I think Demarcus Robinson, like that's the funny thing is that when you look at the way the Rams are right now, because it's Demarcus Robinson, it's Tyler Johnson, and then there's Jordan Whittington.
Yeah,
like I know people like Colby Parkinson. I'm not into Colby Parkinson. And I think he's going to have troubles with like the San Francisco linebackers as well. But you look at the 3 receivers there, and I'm like, all right, give me some Demarcus Robinson in like cash games, right? Veteran, lean on him a little bit. Is the upside play Tyler Johnson, or do we go in with like that preseason hype that Jordan Whittington had and start using him as like a dart throw in GPP tournaments?
I wish he was a little bit cheaper, right? He was $3K and $3,500 the last 2 weeks because of injuries. They just like bumped him up. And now there's no Cooper Kupp, so he's 42. Yeah, I wish he was still like under 4K for us. I'm still going to make lineups with him because, again, he had sort of that preseason hype. They liked the way he, obviously performed. He played 50% of the offensive snaps in week 2. So, didn't get a huge volume out of that, but he's going to start, right? It's going to be him. It's going to be Tyler Johnson. So, I mean, I'm okay with him. Juwan Jennings, though, at 41, like he's going to step up into a role now with no Debo. You could see him see more targets in this one. They're still without Ricky Pearsall, obviously. So Juwan Jennings could be a pivot off of that at 41 $100 there as well. We also, where's our guy Downs here? Downs is 47.
Ooh.
Back, full practice participant. Do you think Downs plays right away, or do they look at what Alec Pearson has been doing and they kind of split the workload here?
Well, Downs is, he's a slot receiver. So, Pierce lines up on the outside. So I think they'll ease Downs back in by utilizing him as that slot guy. But I don't necessarily think that we're going to see
Mitchell that gets hit then.
As far as like who's losing out on snaps, yeah,
correct.
I think it's Adonai Mitchell.
Okay.
Yes.
So Downs is 47, so is Johnson. Pierce is 48. So that whole group there. The Carolina receivers, Thielen's $5K, and Deontay Johnson's $4,900. So if you are, cheapest stack on the board right now is Andy Dalton plus, Deontay or Thielen, whichever one you decide to go.
Stag them up. Stag up them Panthers.
Yeah. I saw in one of your videos this week, you mentioned Greg Dortch talking about Detroit's struggles against the slot receiver.
Yeah. How do you not give him a look? Again, everybody's going to have their attention on Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. If you're going to, it's just the way the slot has gone for Detroit. Detroit's slot coverage has now allowed, 21 catches for 227 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's Cooper Kupp and that's Chris Godwin. I'm not saying Dortch is that guy,
right?
But for this price here at 4,500, right? I think he's like 53 or something like that on FanDuel. He's a move the chains type of guy. He's their primary slot receiver. Michael Wilson lines up on the outside opposite Harrison. That I think that, if you're going to, use like a full point PPR format like you have on DraftKings, I think Dortch is a very intriguing play. He'll move the chains. He'll be open, but even more importantly, once they get inside the red zone, once they get inside like the 15, the 10, it's not always like, hey, let's hand the ball off to James Conner. I could definitely see some passing work. Elijah Harris, their tight end, got like a 12 or 14-yard touchdown pass last week. So, I think Dortch coming out of the slot becomes a very intriguing player here.
Yeah, especially how good Detroit's run defense is. They in the past they have just kind of hammered James Conner when they're in the red zone, but Detroit's run defense being as good as it is, they will probably struggle to get James Conner running the football here up the middle there. So I do like the Dortch call. Any interest in like Tutu Atwell? He had I think it was 30% of offensive snaps.
Yeah, that's kind of in that same realm as what I said about Deonta Foreman. If I'm setting 20 lineups,
sure.
Maybe, you throw a contrarian Tutu Atwell in there, but that's to me, that's a little bit more beyond a dart throw.
Okay.
It's like when you used to use Tavon Austin all the time, John. We had to talk you out of that one.
Well, Roman Wilson's a full go. Do we any interest in the rookie wide receiver?
I have no interest in anything Pittsburgh right now until I see something better from their offense. Like, how gross is that?
They're
offense?
winning football games, so
that's right. They are, but are you scoring extra points in DFS because your team wins?
No. Nope.
That is ugly.
McBride is your top tight end, and price wise, Laporta's right there as well. At 5,400, though, don't we just keep playing Brock Bowers? He came into the league touted as like the best tight end prospect of all time, and he's looked it. He's looked pretty damn good here through 2 weeks.
I think he's going to be chalk city. I think Sam Laporta is going to be super. I think he's going to be massively underowned this week. Right,
Sam Laporta.
Yeah, hasn't done anything. But Arizona has been one of those teams that's routinely weak against the tight end. And I think that with the fact that Laporta is disappointed the way he has through these first 2 weeks, I think everybody's going to be off him. And, and especially at the price tag, right? Who's going to want to pay $6,000 for a tight end who's going to end up with, like what? I don't know, 3 catches for 50 yards?
Listen, Jameson Williams come-ups has really hurt Sam Laporta here, right? Those targets were not there for Jameson Williams the last few years. They were throwing to they had Cleve Raymond or Quintez Cephas as like their wide receiver 2 or something, right?
Quintez Cephas.
It's going to
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, right. They brought back Marvin Jones for like a week. Anyway, so Bowers is fine. McBride is a top expected roster guy. Andrews looked good last week. I mean, everybody, for his likely did nothing, right? It was Andrews as the top guy here. So
big fantasy is going to be mad at you if you say stuff like that, John.
It's just the facts. Now, he did almost come down with that catch at the end of the game, which would have made his stats look a lot better, but shocked he didn't go 9 for 111 and a score again, I'll tell you.
I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it. Freiermuth's been good, man. Like, they're just, for what he's been in cash games, I think that's fine against the Chargers.
Yeah. You bypassed Dalton Schultz. Again, I was making a joke earlier, but I mean, it's legit though for $4,300. If the cover corners are going to be on the wide receivers and it opens up the middle of the field, CJ Stroud can go and lean on Dalton Schultz, especially when you're talking about Brevin Jordan being out as well. So I think that, you're going to see a little bit more route running from Dalton Schultz. So I wouldn't ignore him, but I do like Freiermuth as well. I think he's a solid effort.
Yeah. You had him, Kobe Parkinson, someone again that people think will just kind of step up to take some targets. He didn't do anything in week 2. Looked okay in week 1. I liked Luke Schoonmaker last week. He was super cheap. Obviously, he gets a big price bump now, $3,300. But man caught all 6 of his targets. I tried talking to Coop about this. I was like, their offense likes the third of the tight end. Like it just, it is. He was less enthused about Schoonmaker on the Sunday, preview show that we do on Sunday mornings. But 6 for 6 for 43, and Baltimore's having some troubles against tight ends. We just saw obviously. What happened last week against Bauer. So if they're going to throw it to Schoonmaker, I'm going to have some interest here.
If he's playing, because Jake Ferguson, there's talk about him actually coming back.
With the knee already?
Yeah.
Limited? All right, I guess if he's in, he's in. But if he's not, Schoonmaker would be the way to go.
Well, I mean, I think if he played, if Jake Ferguson's active, I think they split snaps.
Yeah, then I have interest in neither player.
So. Then nobody.
Correct. Anybody else at tight end for you?
You know what, man? Your boy Cade Otton draws a little bit of interest here. Denver, very much in similar fashion as what we were talking about with Minnesota. You've got Patrick Surtain. You've got the rest of that secondary, which is a great secondary. So they're going to pay attention to Mike Evans. They're going to pay attention to Chris Godwin. Middle of the field's kind of going to be opened up. Otton almost had a touchdown last week, but that didn't transpire. But I think that if you're going to open up the middle of the field, because Denver's linebackers, they're either really good pass rushers or they're really good run stoppers, but they don't fall back into coverage particularly well. So I think Otton might be a little bit of a sneaky play.
All right. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
We can give you our Greg Dulcich. Actually, you know what? Greg Dulcich, Zach Ertz, both those guys. I did a video over on our YouTube Shorts.
Sure.
Talking about the 3 of them. Again, Dulcich going up against Tampa Bay. They've been weak against tight end coverage there as well. Again, good solid corners. And there's just no clear-cut one receiver for Denver. Like, I don't even know if it's Cortland Sutton anymore. Josh.
Bo Nix has not been good, right? So this is the problem there.
I think that's a tough one. Oh, you can't use Ertz because he's a Monday night game.
Yeah, Monday night game. All right, defense here. I built lineups with the Steelers this week at home, and didn't really know what was going to go on with Herbert there. Their defense has been pretty decent. Obviously, Atlanta, Denver, 16 total points allowed in those 2 weeks here. We know at home they've been good the last couple seasons. You and I have kind of ridden that Steelers at home narrative. So in on Pittsburgh here. As of now, Tennessee is the highest roster defense, but that may
really higher than the Raiders.
Yeah, Tennessee is their highest roster defense. That may change if Jordan Love gets activated, but people are not high on Malik Willis here. So
the Malik Willis revenge game, they're not high on that? That's so weird.
Did you hear Malik Willis talk about that? They asked him if he had motivation. He's like, no, I believe I was paid while I was there. Like, they have a business to run. Like, I appreciate the work they did. They brought me into the league, like he handled it very well, like it's not, they paid me, no hard feelings, So yeah, right now Tennessee is the highest projected roster defense.
Okay. Let's see, just kind of going from the top to the bottom. I like obviously the Browns against the Giants. Although Myles Garrett sat out practice on Thursday, we're gonna have to keep an eye on what the pass rush looks like. Need somebody in there in the backfield rattling Daniel Jones. Everybody's in on the Raiders going up against Carolina. At least the season-long fantasy people are doing that. And I like the Seahawks going up against against Miami. I think the Seahawks are a nice play. You said Steelers. I can dig that. I mean, you got to give the Bucks a little look. I know Vita Vea didn't practice, on
Bo Nix
Thursday.
is so bad.
What's that?
Bo Nix has been so bad.
Bo Nix has been terrible.
I like they asked Bo Nix about like throwing the interception. He's like, yeah, I dropped back 3 passes and threw it to the other team. Can you break down that interception for us, Bo? Yeah, I can. Took the snap, dropped back, and threw it to the other guys. So these guys are handling it well. I appreciate that. 49ers on the road against the Rams. I know we talk a lot about this matchup in particular. They kind of have a rivalry, McVay and Shanahan, but the Rams are coming into that game severely underhanded there offensively. Thoughts on 49ers?
Yeah, listen, their offensive line does not look good either. I think the 49ers are a great play this week. 3,500, I'm probably gonna, in lineups where I need where I want correlation, maybe I'll use the 49ers or the Seahawks defense. They're both the same price. I like them both.
Sure. All right. Do you have a lineup for us here, Bender?
I did build a lineup for us.
What are we plugging?
This is our GPP lineup. This is not a cash game lineup. All right. So let's stack those Saints because Coop tells us that Derek Carr is a must.
Yeah.
We both love Rashid Shaheed, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to go full stack with Olave?
No, I'm good.
All right.
2-man works.
All right. Well, then here we go. Let's cruise through. Running backs, I like Jordan Mason, not Trey Mason, Jordan Mason.
Okay.
Along with Zamir White.
Okay.
Get a little pay down there. We got Shaheed in there. I want a little something coming back, so give me Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith, okay.
You can't talk me out of DK Metcalf, John. Questionable tag or not, you can't talk me out of him.
Okay.
I'm going to stick with my contrarian Sam Laporta. Greg Dortch, throw him down there. Get a little Detroit, Arizona correlation for some cheap. And then to correlate with my Trey Mason pick, get that 49ers defense in there.
All righty.
Now you could go Seattle there and have like a little extra there with Metcalf and the Seattle defense. You can also obviously pay down at tight end and free up for some other places there.
Sure.
This lineup, I think it's a nice base, and then you tweak it for wherever you want to go.
I like it. We've talked a lot of different variations. Obviously, we love the 6K tier. If you weren't necessarily in on Metcalf, Ayuk was right there. Yep. I thought you were going to go Jerome Ford at running back instead of Zamir White. So like there's a little pivot down there.
I didn't want you to poo-poo the pick. I wanted a lineup that you would approve of.
I definitely like this lineup. So Carr, Mason, White, Shaheed, Smith, Metcalf, Laporta, Dortch, and the 49ers. An example lineup for all of you guys. Again, we'll have the full playbook out. Bender's got his watch list, his contrarian and bargain videos are out there as well. We'll have the example lineups out on Sunday, the dartboard out. And, of course, you can always catch Howard and Coop on Sunday mornings on XM, and then me and Coop over on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube channel to get you all ready for the Sunday slate. So make sure you check us all out there. Right now, Fantasy Alarm has their 7-day free trial going on. You go to fantasyalarm.com/win. When you sign up for either the annual or the monthly subscription, it starts off 7 days free, which means you'll get this week's playbook content included in those 7 days. Also can get access to our Fantasy Alarm Discord channel. Howard's usually hanging out there answering your questions, getting you guys ready for the weekend as well. So there's no better time than right now to join the family. Again, week 3. A lot of good history here for Fantasy Alarm subscribers in week 3. So fantasyalarm.com/win, scan that QR code. If you enter promo code Let's Go, again, you get that first month for less than $20 after your 7-day free trial ends. So check that out now. Come join the family. Howard, good luck to you here in week 3. And for everybody as well, we'll text you later.